The waiting game with Aaron Rodgers marches on. We are really starting to delve into Brandon Ayuk territory, aren't we, with this? Just weeks go by, days go by, months go by, and we get reports, we get news, we get information, but it's not really anything new. It's not like new news. It's just like, oh, a decision could happen in the next couple of days. This is a factor at play, and it doesn't really change anything. And that's kind of where we're at with Rodgers right now. Now, we're not all the way with Ayuk, because if you think about it with Ayuk, that took months. We're not even close to that yet. But in terms of that no man's land territory of the news cycle and information regarding Aaron Rodgers and like last offseason Ayuk, we're kind of getting there with stuff. So why don't I just go through everything we know up to this point as it pertains to Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And one of the reasons, too, why this isn't exactly like Ayuk either, Ayuk was on the 49ers. He was actually on a team. So whenever we first started hearing about Ayuk potentially going to the Steelers, like it wasn't even a certainty that the 49ers were open to trading him. So like there was that saga going on too between Ayuk and the contract, the 49ers. Would they be willing to trade him? They kept saying they wanted to re-sign him, but Ayuk wanted a different number. He was posting social media. So that like there was a lot more involved with the Ayuk stuff. This is pretty simple. Aaron Rodgers is a free agent, and the Steelers need a quarterback. Like that's where we're at. So it's I'm gonna say it's pretty much impossible that it's gonna take as long as what it did with Ayuk for us to finally get an answer with him. But yeah, here's what we know. Aaron Rodgers visited with the Steelers last Friday. The meeting went well. According to Adam Schefter, it was a positive 6-hour visit. Rodgers met with Mike Tomlin. I think he met with Rooney. I at least saw one or two reports saying that he met with the owner, Art Rooney, but it was Tomlin, Omar Khan, even Arthur Smith, and some other offensive coaches. Schefter framed it as a positive visit. I mean, a 6-hour visit, I would think that it went well. It's not like 1 or 2 hours in and out. 6 hours, that's a significant amount of time. And going back to the Rodgers visit, it was significant and it was weighty on both sides of the coin here. From the Steelers standpoint, you had Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, Arthur Smith staying back in Pittsburgh instead of going to Michigan's Pro Day to meet with Rodgers. And Michigan's Pro Day, that's a big deal. Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, that's when Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, and the big guns for the Steelers organization make their appearances. So instead of going to Michigan's Pro Day, and we know Kenneth Grant's there, that could be a guy that we're targeting in the first round, a Will Johnson cornerback. If he slips to us at 21, that could be a guy that we take. For us to miss out on that and hang out in Pittsburgh, talk with Aaron Rodgers, that means something. But then also for Rodgers too, like that's, a 5-hour flight, at least a 5-hour flight from California, making his way out to Pittsburgh, staying there for 6 hours. So he's invested. And he hasn't made any other visits just yet, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's just been the Steelers. So obviously there's significant mutual interest between both parties there, Rodgers and the Steelers. Ian Rappaport said on Pat McAfee's show that based off the meeting, the Steelers felt like a Rodgers relationship could work. So another positive sign for the connection or this 2025 marriage potentially happening. Now, Albert Breer has had a couple things to say since the Rodgers meeting here in Pittsburgh. And one of them is kind of interesting here. He says Rodgers is going to be looking for a Green Bay style culture in terms of his upcoming fit and his new team for 2025. Here were his quotes on that. This was from one of his articles. While money is always a factor in the NFL, I don't really get the idea it will be in this particular case. We've known that with the whole Rodgers saga up to this point, with either the New York Giants or the Steelers. At this point, my sense is that whatever Rodgers decides will come down to what he sees as the best football situation. And along those lines, I've heard Rodgers is looking for a culture such as the one in Green Bay. I get if that sounds a little strange after the drama of the four-time MVP's final years as a Packer, but over the past few months, Rodgers has been open with people around him on his renewed appreciation for what he had for 18 seasons in Wisconsin. Call it a grass is greener dynamic if you want, but it definitely has felt some of those around him, like spending a couple years as a New York Jet, made Rodgers view the situation he had in Green Bay more favorably. So how about that? And in terms of a Green Bay-like situation, I mean, the Steelers have that, right? Consistency, structure, foundation, one of the best organizations, not only over the course of NFL history, but even in like recent history of the last like 10 to 20 years, at least in terms of consistency. We complain about the Steelers not being able to reach the peak, not being able to compete with some of these other elite teams over the last however many years. But in terms of consistency, winning 9, 10 games on a year in, year out basis, we do that. And that's something that Green Bay has done consistently well, too. Now, they had Aaron Rodgers for a good portion of that time. We also had Big Ben. But, I mean, you could see the similarities between the two organizations and the two franchises. Green Bay in the NFC, Steelers over in the AFC. I mean, it's there. I think it's clear as day. I'd say both franchises are considered cream of the crop when you're talking about NFL organizations and how they run things. So not only just in a vacuum are the Steelers one of those type of franchises, but whenever you compare them to the other team that's left as an opening for Aaron Rodgers, I think we blow the Giants away in that category. And I've been saying that. I mean, this is the first time a report has come to the surface to confirm that Rodgers, did kind of take what happened in Green Bay for granted and is trying to get back to something like that, where he could just focus on being quarterback and balling out on Sundays as opposed to trying to play GM and trying to create the structure, create the foundation and the culture for a team like the Jets, where that has been lacking, not only over the last few years, but pretty much throughout the course of their whole history as well. So I think that's another point in the Steelers' favor right there. Another thing that Breer said, too, that was a little interesting to me, and I alluded to talking about this at the beginning whenever I first delved into some of this Rodgers news and the latest with him, is that he hasn't visited with any other teams just yet. It's just been the Steelers. But Breer is saying that the Steelers are actually expecting Rodgers at some point to visit the Giants like he did with the Steelers and how he made his visit here in Pittsburgh. That it's going to be kind of similar, a whole like figure you out process of just getting to know you. And he's going to do that in New York. But we still have not heard anything about him making that visit. He's only visited with the Steelers. Like typically, wouldn't you have expected he makes the cross-country trip to Pittsburgh, visits with the Steelers, like the next day he would have met with the Giants? Wouldn't we have heard anything about a visit with the Giants potentially happening? Even if it wasn't the next day, maybe it's a couple of days down the line. We haven't heard anything. In fact, the Giants kind of went a different route. They just signed Jameis Winston on Friday. Now, I don't think that closed the door completely on them getting Aaron Rodgers, but again, I think it's another positive sign in the direction for the Steelers getting Rodgers, because if the Giants were that confident in Rodgers wanting to go to New York, or even confident in him just visiting them there and being able to make their pitch to Rodgers, I think they would have waited on Jameis, right? Because, like, Jameis it's a significant signing in that Giants might rock with him as their starter in week 1 for 2025. He's one of those type of signings, almost like us signing Mason Rudolph. Worst case scenario, yeah, I think we'll be willing to rock with Mason in our situation here. And then for the Giants, I think they'd be willing to rock with Jameis. If push comes to shove, they miss out on Rodgers, Russ doesn't sign, then maybe Russ signs in Cleveland, and both quarterbacks, both the top 2 quarterbacks end up going the first 2 picks. And they have Jameis and another guy that they draft, say in the 2nd or 3rd round, and they feel like Dart or Will Howard, whoever it is, Milroe, isn't ready yet, and they're going to rock with Jameis. So, like, that's what I mean. It's somewhat a significant signing. Somewhat. I don't think it completely takes him out of the running for Rodgers in terms of like if they would want to sign him or not. Because I don't think Jameis changes that. Like if Rodgers said to the Giants, "Hey, let's meet tomorrow and let's get a deal done," they're still doing that. Jameis doesn't stop it, but I think it's a little bit of a sign that Giants are really looking to explore their other options and keep things open and just trying to do what's best for them as opposed to waiting on Rodgers at this point. Because again, no meeting is even set between those two, even though Breer said that the Steelers are expecting Rodgers to visit with the Giants. Still hasn't happened. Still hasn't happened. Next, we have Tom Pelissero saying that a lot of people that know Rodgers that is involved, or I guess we'll say is in the know for the situation, believe that an answer is coming shortly, maybe within the next few days here. Okay, so if that's the case, combined with all these other reports that we're hearing, Steelers being in the lead and all this, if a decision is coming, it's only the Steelers then. It's literally only the Steelers. Because that would be insane if he just picks the Giants and he didn't visit with them or do any extra due diligence on them at all, right? That would be literally insane. Okay, in terms of coaches, Steelers coaches and how they feel about this situation, we got some information there and two conflicting reports. Brooke Pryor went on 93.7 The Fan and alluded to that this isn't exactly what Arthur Smith was looking for in his second season as the Steelers offensive coordinator, especially after how everything played out with Russell Wilson and, them butting heads a little bit. Russ wanting to run the offense a certain way. Arthur Smith wanting to run it his way. Them not seeing eye to eye. She's saying that it could be a similar type of scenario with Aaron Rodgers, given that he's been in the NFL for 18, what is this going on, 19 years, and he's done things a certain way. He has an offense that he runs a certain way, and he's had a ton of success. So it's not like he's going to want to go into Pittsburgh and reinvent the wheel on how he's playing the quarterback position. But Arthur Smith, again, I mean, it's his job to call the plays and try to run the offense how he sees fit. So Brooke Pryor saying that, yeah, this might not be the exact dynamic he was looking forward to, especially with Justin Fields being available, a guy that Arthur Smith definitely preferred. I mean, especially if you did the whole Fields versus Russell Wilson, which of the two in-house quarterbacks could have been the answer, Arthur Smith would have picked Fields. I don't think there's a doubt about that. But then Jerry Dulac actually said the opposite. He went on a different local radio station here, WDVE, and said that Arthur Smith might actually be liking the Aaron Rodgers connection. So here's a couple of his quotes here. He says, that was kind of the question early on that I had, if Arthur Smith had some issues with some of the things that Russell Wilson was doing, maybe on his own. How would he then feel about having a guy even more established, which is hard to say with Russell Wilson, but a guy whose credentials were even greater than Russell Wilson? Obviously talking about Aaron Rodgers. How would Arthur Smith feel about that? The sense that I've gotten is Smith is excited to work with Rodgers. He met with him the other day as well. I was told that visit went very well. So, yeah, I had that same question. I don't know. They're certainly not going to bring in Aaron and put the reins on him like Matt Canada wanted to do with Big Ben. Hashtag the sabotage. If you know, you know. But Arthur Smith has controlled the offense. And they're certainly not going to turn the offense over to Aaron Rodgers solely, but we'll see how that dynamic works, if at all, if this whole thing pans out for him coming here. Yeah, I actually get both sides of this. I truly do, but I'm leaning on the Jerry Dulac report. I really am. I feel like it was more of a Russ versus Arthur Smith dynamic as opposed to Arthur Smith and a veteran quarterback that, has done things a certain way and has a Hall of Fame resume and all that stuff. I think it was just Arthur Smith and Russ. I think Arthur Smith, in a way, would be excited to work with and Aaron Rodgers, a guy, again, whose credentials are even higher than a Russell Wilson. And I could see it working, man. Like, Rodgers, I know he likes running in the shotgun, but let's not act like he's incapable of going under center and running play action and doing bootlegs and stuff like that. He was doing some of that stuff in his last few years in Green Bay. Now, is his mobility the same? I still thought he was able to move pretty well with the Jets last year. And if anything, too, Arthur Smith for Aaron Rodgers will be an upgrade over whatever the hell he was dealing with in New York from an offensive play calling standpoint with Hackett, and then Hackett gets fired midseason. Now, I know Hackett was his guy and everything, but we saw how inept Hackett was whenever things were new, whenever, the whole environment was changed and it wasn't Aaron Rodgers in the same place in Green Bay, those same receivers, that same offense for years on end, like adding up. That type of continuity that Aaron Rodgers and that whole offense had in Green Bay, and Hackett was just placed in there and could be the offensive coordinator and stuff. You saw what happened when it was just a whole new environment where it was still Rodgers, but new teammates, new receivers, all that type of stuff. It's just, I think Hackett's ineptitude was put on full display. So if anything, for Aaron Rodgers, I think Arthur Smith would be a nice dynamic, an upgraded dynamic. I could see it working. I could see how there would be maybe some concerns, but I really could see this working. I'm leaning towards Arthur Smith being excited about this and also Aaron Rodgers being excited about this as opposed to the opposite. A couple more things, though. There's been some rumors and speculation being thrown out there that the Steelers have given Rodgers a soft deadline to make his decision. This was brought up by Penn Live's Nick Farabaugh. And the reason he brought it up is that April 21st, this is the soft deadline date that he brought up, is the start of off-season workouts. And basically, he mentioned that the Steelers would prefer if Rodgers make his decision by then. And people are running with what I just, like, I think I described the article and what he said pretty well right there. People are running with that and are making it seem like Steelers make deadline with Aaron Rodgers. Steelers set deadline with Aaron Rodgers. Not at all. I don't think so. I think that's a good date to suggest for sure. But what does it even mean? Yeah, sure, that is the start of offseason workouts. You would like to have an answer on who your quarterback is. But even the phrasing of what that deadline is vague and up in the air. A soft deadline? Okay, so that means, the next day if Rodgers makes his decision, it's not like you're going to say no. It's not like the Steelers are going to say, no, Rodgers, the deal's off the table now because it's April 22nd. Soft deadline? No, soft deadline sounds like, okay, a hard deadline is going to be down the line. This is the warning for the hard deadline. So I don't really think we have a deadline just yet, especially too, without going back to the beginning. We're still early in this process. We are. It doesn't feel like it because we're not that patient. I don't think many people are patient in this world, especially now with how we get information and how everything's done. And it's so 24/7, the news cycle and the sports world, all that stuff. But I mean, we're not even up on 2 weeks since free agency officially started. Rodgers had his meeting with the Steelers. Pelissero's saying his impression is that a decision could come within the next few days here. So why don't we just see what happens within the next few days? Why don't we see what happens within the next week or so before we even start talking about April 21st, which is like a month away? I would assume if Rodgers really does want to play, he does want to make this decision sooner rather than later and get off on the best foot possible with his new team, which, I mean, would presumably be us. It's us or the Giants, and we already have gone through kind of what's going on between the Giants and Rodgers and the Giants' current situation with them signing James. I just don't see it right now. I don't see Rodgers to the Giants unless a meeting does happen because they haven't even hit that step yet. Rodgers and the Giants meeting and making the Giants being able to make their pitch to him. we haven't even gotten to that point. So, yeah, the whole deadline stuff and seeing some of those headlines out there, I think it's fool's gold. Now, some are thinking Rodgers will wait till April. Is it April 8th or April 9th? The live Pat McAfee show in Pittsburgh to make his announcement. He's going to come out on stage. Smoke's probably going to be flaring up. Pat McAfee, high energy. And now, today's special guest, last but not least, Steeler Nation, your new quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Some people are thinking that's what's going to happen. And that's, like I said, April 8th, 9th. That's like more than 2 weeks away, I guess. Now, it would be cool. It would be exciting if that's the approach that Rodgers takes. And as long as the Steelers are on board with it, it's like, all right. But I still think it'd be weird because it's like missing the plot, man. It's like, nah. You've been leaving the fans, you've been leaving Steeler Nation in the dark this whole time, playing coy. And then you make the announcement on even like your teammate, not even the fan base, not even the city, not even the all of a sudden you're making the announcement on McAfee and your teammates don't know about it either. And you're making it all about you. It's like, again, it's like missing the plot. It's like almost like what Cam Heyward said. If you want to be a Steeler, man. Like, and be a part of what it means to be a Steeler. And that's having a hardworking approach, blue collar approach, not being above the team. So I think that would actually be a bad look. I would not be deep down. I would not be happy about it. I think on the surface, we could get hyped about it because it would be good marketing. It'd be good buzz. It'd be good hype and all that stuff. But like, it's missing the plot. It's missing the nitty gritty of what this season should be about if Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. Especially with Rodgers coming off of the whole Jets debacle and everyone thinking that he made it too much about him there. And that's why things failed. I think it would just be a big mess. It'd be a big mess. It would be unfortunate. I think it would be like Rodgers taking the wheel, taking the power away from the Steelers. And you can't have that. And if the reports are true, though, from Albert Breer, where Rodgers wants a Green Bay type of situation, then, again, Rodgers shouldn't want that. So we're not even there. That didn't even happen. Some people are just bringing it up as a potential date where Rodgers makes his announcement to become a Steeler. I hope it's not true. I don't think it'd be a good idea. I don't. A good idea would just be for him to make the decision within the next couple of days. Low key, just say, I'm here to be a Steeler. Come in, do your introductory press conference. Say, I'm ready to get to work. Excited. Prove the haters wrong. Prove the doubters wrong. Try to win a championship here. Get the 7th. Maybe get an 8th too in these next couple seasons. And that's that. Last couple things though. Hold on. Let me actually, before we get to, I got 2 more things with Aaron Rodgers. As I said, we got a lot of Aaron Rodgers information that has got dumped in since Rodgers visited with the Steelers. And this is like just everything that's out there right now. I just wanted to go over each little bit of information. I thought that was interesting and react to it. So I got 2 more things, and this has to do with Steeler players. One, Pat Freiermuth, the other one, Cam Heyward. But before I get to that, let me answer this question from the chat here. Hot Mic user says, our season all comes down to left tackle. Can Broderick Jones live up to his first-round position, or is he a bust? I'm asking the same question, my friend. I'm asking the exact same question. I don't think our season all comes down to left tackle. I think a decent portion of the offensive success will. And we'll find out. It's going to be interesting. Broderick played pretty good his rookie year at right tackle. Fell off a little bit his second year. I think his play took a backwards turn, a little bit of a sophomore slump in 2024. But you could argue he's playing out of position. I don't think that's the greatest of excuses because, again, he played decent his rookie year at right tackle. I know he was drafted to be left tackle, was left tackle in Georgia, but I thought he played better his rookie year at right tackle. So, like, what in the world happened his second year? Now, he was going into the season with some injuries. Remember in preseason, he had that big brace on his arm and stuff, and he's like, this is the healthiest I'm going to be. I'm going to battle through it. But then that doesn't excuse some of the effort stuff that we see from Broderick Jones out there on occasion too. We'll see. We'll see. He's going to get back to his rightful position. He's got to have the mentality that this is a make or break season for him. And the Steelers should have that mentality too, because we have in the past, in a way, coddled first round picks and given them third and fourth chances that I don't think was as deserving, like a Devin Bush or who's another, maybe Artie Burns in a way, not fully to the same degree as Devin Bush, because I don't think Artie got the same amount of snaps as his play went downhill, as opposed to Devin Bush. He was still getting like starter snaps out there, and Robert Spillane was the better linebacker. That's what we're going to find out. Your question is going to remain a question till the season takes place, if we're going to be honest. But that's kind of like the layout. That's the whole context of Broderick Jones' third year. It's a big year. It's definitely a big year, especially if we bring in an Aaron Rodgers too. Rodgers gonna be relying on you. Be his blind side. Protect that for him. Last two things though before we get out of here. I'll try to be quick with these. Like I said, it has to do with current players and Aaron Rodgers. How about this? I thought this one came across the desk today. I thought this was pretty interesting. Pat Freiermuth went on 93.7 The Fan here and said he's talked to Aaron Rodgers. Another good sign. Again, what is the theme of today's show? All good signs pointing to Aaron Rodgers becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler. But Freiermuth says he's talked to Aaron Rodgers. He says, yeah, I've been in contact. Also confirmed that Rodgers responded to his messages, not just Freiermuth sending some Hail Marys out there, Hail Mary messages like, hey, come to Pittsburgh. Rodgers is responding. They're having a dialogue. Naturally, Freiermuth didn't detail the extent of those messages, but there's at least one Steeler player having dialogue with him after Rodgers' 6-hour visit to the team facility last Friday. He also clarifies that it's not Rodgers' phone number that he's been contacting him with. I've just been DMing him on my Instagram. Haven't gotten past the DM phase. Nothing wrong with that, though. Like, Freiermuth probably has got more information or has got more intel than a ton of people out there on this Rodgers situation. According to a report from ESPN's Jeff Darlington Tuesday morning, Rodgers doesn't even have the famed inner circle, this is my point, helping him make a decision. Freiermuth also noted that McAfee crew has been kept in the dark about Rodgers' thought process. Doesn't seem like no one knows what's going on, but we'll see what happens. That's a little bit better of, I would say, of a recruitment than what another Steeler player has been accomplishing, or maybe, I guess, lack of accomplishing over the last couple of days in trying to recruit Rodgers. Because Cam Heyward, remember, he said on his podcast in kind of a not so delicate way, like, if you want to be a Steeler, be a Steeler. I'm not going on any darkness retreat. I'm not doing any of that. Like, I'm just ready for a quarterback decision to be made, man. Like, I don't got to sell you on anything. And it just didn't seem like Heyward was that enthused about Rodgers coming here, especially when you compare it to some of the other players he's talked to in the past and has been able to help end up in the Steel City, like a DK Metcalf. Like, that information just came out in the last day or so, that as soon as he heard DK Metcalf was trying to be traded, that the Seahawks were going to let him pursue a trade, he hit up DK Metcalf like, yo, come to Pittsburgh. He initially heard that DK was going to go to LA. He's like, oh, let me get on the line. Let me talk to DK. Pittsburgh's the better spot. And then he ends up being a Steeler. He recruited Darius Slay. Slay said that Cam Heyward recruited Darius Slay. Slay said it on his podcast just last week. And then going back to last offseason with Russ, we heard the stories about, Russ was talking to Cam, he's talking to Minka, he's talking to TJ before he ended up signing. It was all love. Not the same energy with Aaron Rodgers from Cam Heyward, but here's what his reaction was to his initial comments he made on his podcast that he feels like everyone blew out of proportion. Because you can see the headline here. Cam says he wasn't trying to call out Aaron Rodgers. He says, everyone gave me crap. They said I called him out. I don't think I really called him out. I just said I wasn't going on a darkness retreat to recruit him. But if he wants to be a Steeler, he can be a Steeler. That's the pitch. I don't know why everybody thought, oh, Cam's really going at him. Some fans felt, oh, yeah, keep doing that. And other fans felt like, oh, man, you're really going to scare him off. I'm not scaring anybody off. I just want to win games and play good football. Plenty of people who show up and then don't get signed. This is referring to Rodgers' 6-hour visit on Friday. I'm not putting stock into that. It's not my decision. Omar, Mike, y'all handle it. Y'all figure it out. Anybody who signs, I welcome them to the team. I don't have an ego and think we can't win with a guy. I get excited for a team. You bring in a guy like that, he's got a good knowledge of the game. I think he can only help. So there you go. Cam Heyward, pro Aaron Rodgers becoming a Steeler. Again, it's still not to the extent, though, of how he recruited DK Metcalf or a Darius Slay or a Russell Wilson. But we got Pat Freiermuth trying to make things happen on the back end with the Instagram DMs. But that's it for today's show. I still think it's Rodgers to the Steelers or retirement at this point. Vikings, they've moved on. They're going with J.J. McCarthy. I'm even seeing some stuff about them signing Ryan Tannehill to potentially be McCarthy's backup. That's another indication that McCarthy's our guy. We're only bringing in Tannehill to help him, give him a veteran's eye, to give him some help, seeing the field and just give him another set of good veteran quarterback guys. Not a threat to take his job, anything like that. We know where Ryan Tannehill is at this stage of Tannehill's career. And Niners, from what that's one of the conspiracies that's being thrown out there right now. Niners, if they can't come to an agreement with Brock Purdy, could the door be opened up for them trading for Aaron Rodgers or signing Aaron Rodgers and then trading Brock Purdy? But I heard from some other sources, there were some other reports out there that said the Brock Purdy 49ers deal is going to get done. Like, there's no way it's not going to get done. From a conspiracy standpoint, the Rodgers-Niners connections out there, but like legitimate reporters, legitimate sources, they're saying Purdy Niners, it's happening. How long does it take? No one knows, but it's going to happen. So that leaves them out. That leaves, again, any other team outside of the Steelers or Giants out of it. And if it's between the Steelers and Giants, it doesn't even look like a competition at this point. Now, is there a competition for the Steelers between us and retirement? That's a different story. That's something we don't really exactly know right now. But, yeah, I think all signs still point to Rodgers becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback. And I'd be excited for it. You guys know what I've been saying this whole offseason. I think Rodgers should have been in the Steelers mix or should have been in the Steelers radar from day one when he became available. And obviously with where we're at and what quarterback options are out there, he's really the only guy on the Steelers radar at this point. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Talk more Steelers. Probably talk more Aaron Rodgers. Until then, stay chilling. Peace.